morning, Dr. Nicol. Hi, how are you doing?
Good morning.
Hi, and Dan Gibbons from the solvent abuse charity Resolve, who do a lot of work going to schools and talking as well. Let me just do some text, then I'll come to David. Somebody's typing there. If they could stop, that would be great. Here's a tweet. I can't walk more than a few metres where I live without seeing piles of empty canisters in gutters, in bushes, outside shops. I actually live in a fairly nice area, so nowhere is immune. Another one. At last! The issue of nitrous oxide, I'll get that. Nitrous oxide abuse is a real problem, so dangerous to do. Sends kids nuts, and they cause antisocial behaviour and vandalism as a result. They now share massive catering canisters of it. Police and school powerless to do anything, can't even confiscate it. Also, littered cans are a danger to dogs, young children. This needs to be dealt with. Another one. It's not as bad physically or mentally as sniffing glue or inhaling the many other solvents available that have massive psychotropic impact on the mind and body. People, especially the young ones, will explore personal freedom using various tools, and laughing gas is just another vehicle. Drug use is often self-medication for trauma. That's from David in Wales. David, a consultant neurologist, the canisters are everywhere. This has just grown exponentially in recent years, hasn't it, David?
It has, and particularly since the pandemic, because in one sense, nitrous oxide, which is my preferred, I think laughing gas is the wrong term because it trivialises it, has been around since the 19th century. But something has significantly changed since 2020, and I would actually say changed even in the last year. And that is that the quantities that people are using, and also the size of the canisters, that's what's changing. And this, in some cases, is leading to long-term neurological harm. That is the concern. But I think the focus should be on suppliers rather than users. What we don't want to be doing is criminalising young people. Yeah. But on the other hand, we're aware of people who've been driving whilst ballooning and things like that, which is just completely
well, they do that drinking. They do that drinking when they do that when they've been smoking weed as well. There are long-term damage to both of those too. How significant is the long-term damage? I'm just trying to establish how dangerous this is. It's annoying, yeah, obviously.
Well, no, it's more than that. And I was actually thinking about, as a neurologist, from time to time, once every 5-6 years, I might see someone on cocaine who has a stroke. Now, there is always someone on our ward who's coming because of the neurological consequences of nitrous oxide. Yeah. So it has significantly changed over the last 3 years, and particularly over the last year.
Yeah. What was it for originally?
Well, it is used as an anaesthetic, but that's Entonox, which is 50% oxygen. The street drug nitrous oxide is being used is pure nitrous oxide, and it's absolutely not for human consumption. And the consequence of particularly chronic heavy use, it leads to a functional vitamin B12 deficiency. And vitamin B12 is really important for normal nerve function within the spinal cord and also within your peripheral nerves. So what happens is patients come to hospital unable to walk. Really unable to walk, most will get better if they stop doing it, but not all will. And also some patients suffer from hypoxia because there's no oxygen with this, and can end up gravely ill. And indeed, there was a teenager from Leamington, I think it was, who died following an asthma attack from nitrous oxide use.
So what sort of clampdown would you like to see here? Because there are calls for a ban on all consumer sales from the British Compressed Gases Association, and as you say, you don't want to clamp down on consumers and criminalise kids. So where are they getting it from, and how do we stop them getting it from those places?
Put it in context. I'm aware of a franchise of shops in Birmingham, 10 shops across Birmingham. Obviously, I'm not going to name them. But the nickname that neurologists have is the McNoss of nitrous oxide. This stuff should not be being sold in corner shops. Equally, there are websites which readily sell this. I could get you a pallet load of nitrous oxide for £8,000. They even give you a discount on Bitcoin with 5%, and has videos on YouTube how to use it. So there needs to be taken action really on suppliers. But, a patient I saw on Monday, 19-year-old student, I asked him how many of his friends use this. And, he's a guy who was having to crawl to the bathroom because he couldn't walk, but is now getting better. And he was saying, all my friends are using it, all of them. And we don't want to be criminalising young people. The target must be both education and on suppliers, basically. And the West Midlands Police, I went to meet them in November. There'd only been 4 arrests since the 2016 Psychoactive Drugs Act. Not necessarily convictions. So I think there does need to be adjustments in legislation to make it tougher on suppliers. And indeed, in the Netherlands, just this month we think of Holland as being fairly liberal with its drug laws, has introduced a ban on retail sales from the start of this year.
Yeah, I'm just texting. My daughter is 24. Do any of your friends use nitrous oxide, or any of your sister's friends? It's not a conversation I've had, so we'll see.
Well, don't be outing her on the radio, Nicky.
Sorry?
Don't be outing her on the radio.
No. I mean, it's not her. It's her friends. That's right.
Okay.
It's she's a wide circle of friends. She goes to parties. She's got she knows lots of people. I know she doesn't. Interesting. Yeah, Dan, I'm with you in a minute. Here's caller Nicky in Wolverhampton. Hi, Nicky. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, yes. I really just wanted to reinforce what your previous caller, the neurologist, was saying. I'm actually an anaesthetist, and it's been very well known for a considerable number of years that nitrous oxide is actually a dangerous anaesthetic gas. It actually, what it does is it actually stops the cells anywhere in the body dividing when they're dividing to get about their business, and it can cause a widespread number of effects. Apart from the neurological symptoms, it causes an anemia, and it's also been found to cause congenital defects. They did the research in dentists because dental surgeries use nitrous oxide, and they tend to use it without a scavenger, so it gets into the atmosphere and doesn't get taken away safely, whereas in a hospital theatre they actually have a system to remove it and evacuate it safely. And even then we do have to wear a detecting badge about once a year to make sure we haven't been exposed to excessive amounts of it.
Yeah, so what do you make of it? And I mean, as David said, an awful lot of young people do use this. That's what I'm trying to explore, whether, for example, my daughter's seen it anywhere, and parties or whatever, so, kids go to parties with a lot of people. But what do you make of it? When you see one of those canisters, how does it make you feel?
I feel terrible, actually. Where I'm living in Wolverhampton, it's sort of, I'm on a road that's just off the main shopping area, and you walk to Sainsbury's, for instance, and you see them scattered around all over the place. As you said, much like the masks used to be when it was we were wearing them for COVID. And it's terrible to think that people are doing that, and they think it's a safe drug, whereas in fact, because it can cause congenital defects and things, it's possibly even more harmful than something like heroin, in the sense that after you've stopped taking it, you can then have a complication. It just sort of comes wham bam back to affect you. Yeah.
Dan in a second, but David, is that part of the thing that young people might justify it to themselves because, hey, this is used in hospital, and it's, it's...
I've heard that, and I also heard of illegal suppliers that are providing B12 as well. That won't work. Yeah. I've seen patients come in with this. No. I actually think that we should think of this as more dangerous than cocaine.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you get the problems after you stop taking it. And again, as I was saying to the researcher, if it causes the reason that it's just mentioned B12 was because it causes the same sort of pattern in the blood cells with the anemia as B12 deficiency. And if you go to the doctor and the doctor finds you've got it, that's what he's going to treat you for. It's not going to enter his head really. About the it's nitrous oxide abuse.
Cocaine, extremely addictive. Erodes the nose, erodes the soul, fills NA meetings. It's not addictive, is it? You're just saying that the health effects are as bad, if not worse, than cocaine, David. It's quite a thing to say. It's really interesting.
The reason I'm saying that is I don't regularly have patients with cocaine abuse on my neurology ward. Okay. Yeah. I regularly see patients with nitrous oxide with the neurological consequences of nitrous oxide abuse. And I've spoken to an ophthalmologist colleague who saw a patient who went blind from hypoxia from nitrous oxide use. Which is why I don't like the term laughing gas, because that trivialises it. And I think actually that's been part of the problem. When I spoke to West Midlands Police, the rest they were taking certainly tended to be where there were other drugs being used. The population using nitrous oxide aren't using other drugs. And often don't drink, actually. So there's been some fantastic work that's being done in Birmingham and elsewhere from Muslim charities, for example. Likewise, I think we need to be working with the dance and rave community. Some of the cylinders now, 3.9 kilogram cylinders. I mean, it's absolutely huge. That really would kill someone. So it's both the quantity and volume. So, I've seen patients using 5-6 smart whips a day, okay, and also the cost of this stuff is dropping. Ironically, the cost of gas is going through the roof, but the cost of nitrous oxide, smart whip cylinder, street price drops from about 50 quid to 25 quid or less in a year, basically. Yeah. So the market's being swamped with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, people who don't drink, don't take weed, they take this because they say, oh, this is kind of okay. The shops where it's, I'm sorry to keep you down, I will be with you. Some really interesting points coming in here. But
Nicky, could I just sort of butt in just very quickly? There is evidence that it is addictive because there have been a lot of incidences where anaesthetists have actually been sort of had up the whole for the GMC because they've been... yes, they do.
What I was going to ask you is the kind of shops where it's for sale, pardon my ignorance. David, you mentioned it, maybe 10 shops where you are, I think you said Birmingham. Are they the kind of shops that, sell, weed paraphernalia and pipes and Rizzlers and stuff like that? The kind of hippie shops, or if you like, or are they, what kind of shops are they? Without giving addresses and stuff like that.
Well, I have given the addresses to the police.
Right. Okay.
I started asking patients, and patients are very reluctant. I mean, what I would say to patients actually is, I have really struggled to find a single patient that's willing to speak to the press about this. And yet, if you ask them, all their friends are using it. So please, you've come into hospital because of this. Please tell your friends about this because they need to know. You would not want your friends to suffer the way you've suffered. So it's really important we get a conversation going on. I think the education aspect is so important, which is why I just worry about criminalising our youth, basically. We should be criminalising suppliers. Those are the people we should be, banging up, basically. And when I look at some of the websites, which, there's one particular website I was set up in May, and even that franchise of shops was set up last year. And yet I look at the majority of admissions to my own ward in the last 3 years have been in the last 8 months. It completely coincides with when those shops were set up, and also some of those illegal websites. It's just quite remarkable.
What, is it just a newsagent or something, or what?
Some are corner shops, yeah.
Corner
absolutely.
Wow.
I tried doing an amateur Roger Cook doorstepping, but I don't think I could get away with that now, because they probably recognise me off TikTok.
Roger Cook dates you a wee bit there, David.
It does a bit, yeah. And I mean, the irony I make, I can remember when I was young, I really liked going parachuting. But some of these websites, it's a bit like a website that, will sell you a discount parachute with a discount in Bitcoin, show a YouTube video on how to jump out of the plane, and off you go. I mean, no one would do that. And yet that is exactly what's happening at the moment.
More dangerous than cocaine. Dan, at last. Anthony will be right with you. Great call from Nicky as well. Come back in if you feel there's anything else to say, Nicky. Anthony in a second. Dan Gibbons, do you echo what you've heard from David?
Pretty much. I think one of the main points from Resol's aspect is the education. I think no matter what happens from a legal point of view, education has to be a priority, and support. Making drugs on the whole illegal doesn't make them unavailable. If anything, it loosely pushes them underground and makes them probably a little bit more volatile. So we need to make sure there is adequate education, but also support for people. Obviously at Resol, we do offer support and advice. And we do, actively work with people who are using nitrous oxide, not to be confused and compared to butane gas. Nitrous oxide is separate. And we are seeing the risks and the harms. but also it has a bit of a reputation for being a little bit of fun, a little bit kind of watery in its effects, which, we are seeing some of the quite serious impacts of long-term and binge use of nitrous oxide at the moment, and it can be quite scary.
Yeah, hi Anthony, thanks for getting in touch. Anthony in Surrey. Canisters, Canistergate, everywhere.
Oh, don't get me going on that, Nicky. It drives me absolutely crazy.